Alright, what's going on everybody? My name is TAETRO and today I want to give you my first impressions of the Maschine Mikro Mk3. Let's check it out. Alright, first things first, if you enjoy live electronic music performances, tutorials, and free sound packs, click that subscribe button down below. I would like to be your electronic music mentor. I want to take you through how I create my live electronic music performances and how I work with particular gear like the Maschine Mikro Mk3. And I want to preface this video by saying I am completely brand new to the Maschine workflow, the software, the hardware, everything. I'm pretty new to almost everything Native Instruments besides some key software plugins. So this perspective is from someone who is an Ableton user, someone who is brand new to Maschine, so take it for what it's worth. I want to start by talking about some things I love about the Maschine Mikro. And the first thing I love is the form factor. This thing is super slim, light, easy to carry, and the build quality is great. It's got this cool design where it's slightly angled so that it sort of looks up at you. It's not just flat on the desk, and I really appreciate that detail. The backlit buttons are nice and clicky, very satisfying. And it has this teeny tiny screen, which at first I was making fun of in my head. I was like, what is the point of that little screen? But it actually can give you a good amount of information, and you have these little scroll buttons here so that you can scroll through everything. It's actually really neat. And it's actually a lot for that really tiny screen. It's not hard to read at all either. Which brings me to my next point. This is 100% bus powered, no external power required, which is how I like my gear. Another nice touch is the shift functions on the pads. I'm not used to having that on my Ableton Push, but this is a great way of being able to do a lot in a small form factor. So things like quantize and undo and redo are all right here on the pads. And I guess this is new. I was talking to a friend that also has Maschine, and this touch strip is a new addition to the Mikro. I actually think it's really cool because you can right here adjust what the touch strip does: pitch, mod, and then perform with effects, and then notes. This is the only one I don't really get. Like, you can play notes on it. I don't know why you would. It's almost like some type of chance operations. Like, you can't be super accurate with it. But in terms of like performing effects on it, you can choose what effects you want to perform on it, which is really cool. And then pitch and mod are obviously what you know. The price is also really dope, $249.99, which I think is super accessible for a controller like this. You see a lot of hardware going above the $300 mark, and I usually like it to be a bit below that for producers who are just getting started and are on a budget. Now let me quickly take you through some things that I might change about the Maschine Mikro Mk3, and I want to remind you again, I'm an Ableton user, I'm brand new to Maschine, and some of these complaints might have more to do with Maschine workflow, like the software workflow, than it does the hardware, but I guess someone will correct me in the comments. So one interesting design choice I see is that tap and metronome are on the same button. Okay, I don't mind that. You can hold shift and access the metronome, which I think is odd. I think the shift function should be tap tempo and the metronome should just be on the regular function, because in my mind, you're only tapping the tempo once and it's at the beginning to get your starting tempo. The rest of the time, you're going to want to toggle the metronome on and off as you're producing. Also, the metronome on and off and tap tempo are down here, and the tempo button is up here. So yeah, that's cool that I can press tempo and adjust it with the knob, but why would they not be next to each other? And this part is more about the Maschine workflow in general, I think, but when you're playing a loop and you stop, when you go to play it again, it starts from exactly where you stopped from. So it could be not on beat, it could be just somewhere random in bar 4. Once you enter in again, you're entering from that same spot, not the beginning of the loop, or not even the last bar. Because of that, there's a restart loop button dedicated. Why not just have it always restart the loop every time you stop and start again? Then there's the record Countin, and I really can't wrap my mind around this. So when you record by default in Maschine, it records a 1 loop bar. So if I just press record, it'll record 1 bar. If I want to have a Countin, I can hold Shift and record Countin, which I really like. But when you do that, it doesn't conform to the bar length that you might have already set in Maschine. So I could have a blank 4-bar loop in Maschine, hold Shift and record Countin, and after it does that, it just keeps recording until you stop it again. I don't like that. With that said though, I am getting used to the Maschine workflow and I do like it as an alternative to Ableton so far. And what I keep having to remind myself is I don't think it's much of a performance tool. I think it really is just a production studio. And I guess I've just been a little bit spoiled by Ableton where it can do both of those really well. I mean, it's called Ableton Live. Maschine is more for beat makers, producers, sitting there and doing production work, which I totally appreciate and I totally get. So I have to constantly be reframing my focus to remember that. There are other things that I might change about the device, but I'm not comfortable sharing them yet because it could just be my own ignorance and I'm not really in it yet. But like, yeah, this is a great piece of hardware. The note repeat and also arpeggiator right there, I can just shift and patch into the arpeggiator, and then I can adjust the rate right from that knob right there. And also I like being able to have pad mode for every instrument. So for a drum, I can be in pad mode and playing my normal drum kit, and then I can patch over to keyboard mode and it will actually give me a scale with the selected pad. And I think that's a little more similar to MPC style workflow, and that's something that Ableton doesn't have. So I really like it on the Maschine. I think the bottom line here is that this is easy for me to grab and go. This is easy for me to bring to different rooms in my apartment. This is easier for me to take with me. So I think that means that I'm going to be using it pretty often. And I really want to get to know the workflow. I'm not able to use it as a VST within Ableton yet, but I think once I can, that will really unlock a lot for me. But so far, I'm enjoying a different creative workflow from Maschine, and I'm really enjoying the new hardware. So that's about it for my first impressions of the Maschine Mikro 3. If you're a die-hard Maschine fan and you can give me some tips, please let me know in the comments. And if you're sort of new and you think you have questions that I can answer, feel free to leave those in the comments as well. I'm going to be trying to make a bunch more videos with the Maschine Mikro Mk3. So stay tuned for that. Click the subscribe button if you haven't. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed. My name is TAETRO. Have a good one.